Chapter 19: Living an Elementally Balanced Life. The Symphony of Integration. Imagine standing in the center of a magnificent garden you have tended through many seasons, where once separate plants have grown into a harmonious ecosystem, where sturdy trees provide foundation that supports delicate flowering vines, where flowing water nourishes fiery blooms, where open spaces allow circulation of fresh air carrying hints of earth and pollen. In this garden, your presence feels simultaneously significant and humble, a conscious participant in a living system that both responds to your tending and unfolds according to its own inherent wisdom. This garden offers profound metaphor for the integrated life that emerges through conscious relationship with elemental energies. What began as conceptual framework or collection of separate practices gradually transforms into living ecosystem where earth, fire, air, and water no longer function as isolated dimensions requiring deliberate balancing, but as harmonious expressions of unified consciousness manifesting through your unique being. The elemental journey evolves from doing balance to being balanced, from mechanical application of external framework to natural expression of integrated wholeness. As we conclude our exploration of elemental living, remember that this journey represents not finite achievement with clear endpoint but continuous unfolding that evolves throughout life's passages. The elements themselves teach us this wisdom through their endless cycles of transformation, earth becoming fire through decomposition feeding new growth, fire becoming air through flame releasing smoke, air becoming water through condensation forming clouds, water becoming earth through nourishment absorbed by plants. Nothing ever truly concludes in elemental world but rather transforms into new expression within continuous cycle of becoming. In these final pages, we'll explore how elemental awareness continues evolving throughout life's journey, how practices adapt to different life stages, how personal philosophy emerges from lived experience rather than abstract theory, how elemental wisdom naturally extends beyond individual development into relationship with others, and how personal balance creates ripple effect extending far beyond individual life. Rather than treating this conclusion as final destination, consider it threshold into continuous adventure of living in conscious relationship with the elemental energies that constitute both your individual being and the universe itself. The ongoing journey of elemental awareness. Like any profound developmental process, elemental integration unfolds through continuous evolution rather than single achievement, pathway of progressive refinement rather than final destination reached and thereafter permanently inhabited. The cyclical nature of elemental learning reveals itself through recurring themes appearing at progressively deeper levels throughout life journey. Rather than linear progression leaving earlier stages permanently behind, elemental development follows spiral pattern where similar challenges return in new forms with each life cycle. The earth questions of stability, security, and embodiment appear differently in childhood, early adulthood, midlife, and elder years but remain essential themes requiring fresh integration appropriate to each stage. The fire dimensions of purpose, passion, and creative expression similarly resurface throughout life, inviting increasingly nuanced relationship with these energies as we mature. This cyclical understanding transforms apparent repetition from indication of failure into recognition of deepening spiral where familiar themes provide opportunity for unprecedented integration beyond previous capacity. Common plateaus and their transcendence characterize the developmental rhythm of elemental growth. Periods of apparent stagnation often indicate not lack of progress but necessary integration phase where previous insights stabilize before next expansion becomes possible. Like plant alternating between growth spurts and consolidation periods where new tissue strengthens, elemental development includes both dramatic shifts in awareness and essential stabilization phases where new understanding incorporates into lived experience. These plateaus offer valuable opportunity to embody conceptual insights through consistent practice rather than continuous seeking of novel understanding without sufficient integration. Their transcendence typically occurs not through impatient forcing but through faithful embodiment until readiness for next expansion emerges organically from integrated foundation. Measuring progress in subtle rather than dramatic ways becomes increasingly important as elemental journey matures. While early stages often feature dramatic revelations, emotional catharsis, or visible lifestyle changes, advanced integration frequently manifests through subtle shifts in quality of presence rather than outward transformation. Patience with challenging emotions rather than reactive expression or suppression, appropriate boundary setting without struggle or apology, balanced perspective during difficult circumstances without either detachment or overwhelm. These refined qualities represent significant progress that may appear unremarkable from outside perspective but reflect profound integration within inner landscape. This subtle understanding transforms assessment from achievement-oriented metrics to appreciation for qualitative shifts in relationship with elemental energies as they express through daily life. The long-term benefits of sustained elemental practice extend far beyond immediate effects visible in early stages. While initial practice may produce noticeable stress reduction, improved emotional regulation, or enhanced cognitive clarity, sustained engagement develops integrated foundation that supports lifelong flourishing across multiple dimensions, genuine presence in relationships beyond habitual patterns, creative engagement with meaningful purpose, embodied wisdom transcending mere conceptual understanding. This developmental perspective transforms elemental practice from self-improvement technique producing specific outcomes into lifelong journey, gradually revealing deeper dimensions of being through progressive integration of apparently separate aspects into recognized expressions of unified consciousness. This ongoing understanding transforms elemental awareness from fixed achievement to continuous adventure, not diminishing the significance of genuine milestones along the path but recognizing them as threshold crossings into new territories of exploration rather than final destinations. Like skilled gardener who recognizes that garden never reaches finished state but continuously evolves through seasonal cycles and years of growth, mature elemental practitioner approaches integration as lifelong relationship with ever-deepening dimensions of experience, rather than problem to solve once and forever. Adapting elemental practices throughout life stages. While core principles of elemental balance remain consistent, their practical expression necessarily evolves through different life phases, each stage presenting unique challenges, opportunities, and developmental tasks requiring specific adaptation of elemental practices. Early adulthood, establishing elemental foundations typically involves developing sufficient stability within each element to support life direction beyond family origin or educational structures. This foundational period often emphasizes establishing earth security through career development, living situation, financial literacy, and basic self-care routines. Discovering authentic fire expression through clarifying personal values, exploring meaningful directions, and developing motivational sustainability. Cultivating air clarity through refining communication skills, developing intellectual discernment, and creating information management systems. And nurturing water connection through emotional intelligence, relationship skills, and intuitive trust. The integrative challenge during this stage typically involves establishing these separate foundations while beginning to recognize their interdependence, preventing overspecialization in domains of natural strength, while developing sufficient capacity in challenging elements to support balanced functioning. Midlife, rebalancing and integrating neglected elements frequently emerges as central theme during middle decades. This rebalancing phase often involves recognizing and addressing limitations created by overemphasis on initially successful strategies, perhaps discovering that achievement-oriented fire energy that created professional success now requires complementary water depth for meaningful relationship. Realizing that intellectual air brilliance that supported educational advancement needs earth embodiment for sustainable well-being. Recognizing that emotional water sensitivity that facilitated relationship development benefits from air clarity for appropriate boundaries. The integrative challenge during this stage typically involves honestly acknowledging imbalances created through earlier specialization while developing genuine appreciation for previously neglected elements. Not abandoning established strengths but complementing them with dimensions initially overlooked. In service of successful adaptation to earlier life demands. Later life, elemental wisdom and transcendence often characterizes mature development when sufficient experimental foundation allows genuine integration transcending mechanical balancing. This wisdom phase frequently emphasizes recognition that elements represent not separate dimensions requiring deliberate management but complementary expressions of unified consciousness manifesting through individual being. The focus typically shifts from doing practices to support specific elements toward being the integrated expression of elemental balance in each moment, embodied wisdom manifesting spontaneously through appropriate response to each situation. Rather than calculated intervention based on conceptual framework. The integrative challenge during this stage involves transcending identification with separate self struggling to maintain balance while recognizing deeper identity as the awareness within which all elemental experiences arise and dissolve like waves within ocean. Not abandoning practical functioning but recognizing its expression within larger context transcending conventional boundaries of separate selfhood. Major transitions. Navigating elemental disruption presents recurring challenge throughout life journey regardless of developmental stage. Whether facing relationship beginnings or endings, career shifts, health challenges, geographic relocations, or other significant changes, major transitions temporarily disrupt established elemental balance through challenging previously functional patterns. These transitional periods require particular attention to maintaining essential foundations while allowing necessary transformation, sufficient earth stability to prevent complete disorientation while maintaining fire flexibility for appropriate adaptation. Enough air perspective to see larger context while honoring water's emotional processing of significant change. The integrative challenge during transitions involves neither rigid resistance to necessary change nor complete abandonment of essential stability but dynamic balance allowing simultaneous groundedness and transformation appropriate to specific circumstances. This developmental understanding transforms elemental practice from standardized approach applied identically across lifespan into continuously evolving relationship that honors both consistent principles and changing needs across different life stages. Not abandoning fundamental understanding but expressing it through increasingly sophisticated applications appropriate to unique challenges and opportunities emerging throughout life's journey. Creating your personal elemental philosophy. Beyond applying external framework or following predetermined system, mature elemental living involves developing personalized understanding emerging from lived experience rather than merely adopted concept. Developing principles rather than rigid rules allows flexible yet consistent application across diverse contexts. Rather than attempting to establish exact formulas for elemental balance applicable to every situation. Mature practitioners recognize deeper principles manifesting through contextual expression, understanding that earth stability might manifest through consistent routine during stable periods but through clear priorities amid disruption, recognizing that air clarity might express through comprehensive analysis when time permits but through essential discernment during emergency, appreciating that water depth might demonstrate through emotional vulnerability in intimate relationships but through appropriate boundaries in professional settings. This principled approach transforms elemental understanding from rigid technique into flexible wisdom adapting appropriately to unique circumstances while maintaining consistent orientation toward balance and integration. Integrating elemental wisdom with existing values creates coherent philosophy beyond fragmented collection of borrowed concepts. By exploring how elemental understanding enhances rather than replaces previous values, how earth grounds spiritual ideals in practical expression, how fire energizes ethical commitments beyond intellectual assent. How air clarifies intuitive guidance through discerning perspective, how water deepens conceptual understanding through emotional resonance, practitioners develop integrated framework where elements support rather than compete with existing priorities. This integrative approach transforms elemental philosophy from separate system requiring abandonment of previous values into complementary framework enhancing their expression through balanced engagement with all dimensions of experience. Finding language that resonates with your experience allows authentic expression beyond borrowed terminology. While traditional elemental language provides valuable starting point, mature practitioners develop personalized vocabulary emerging from direct experience. Rather than merely adopting conventional terms, finding images, metaphors, or descriptions that accurately reflect their unique understanding of what earth stability, fire activation, air clarity, or water depth actually feel like in lived experience. This personal language transforms elemental philosophy from abstract concept into living understanding embodied through authentic expression resonating with individual experience beyond standardized formulations. Creating personalized elemental guidelines ** translates general principles into specific practices suited to individual constitution and circumstances. By recognizing their natural elemental tendencies, identifying recurring imbalance patterns, understanding contextual factors affecting their unique situation, and continuously refining practices based on direct experience, mature practitioners develop customized approach addressing their specific needs rather than following generic prescriptions. This personalized approach transforms elemental practice from standardized technique into tailored method honoring unique constitutional tendencies, life circumstances, and developmental needs beyond one-size-fits-all formulations. Evolving your approach through ongoing exploration ** maintains living relationship with elemental wisdom beyond fixed understanding. By treating elemental philosophy as continuously developing perspective enriched through new experiences, unexpected challenges, diverse influences, and deepening insight rather than settled understanding requiring mere application. Mature practitioners maintain beginner's mind that discovers fresh dimensions within familiar territory. This evolutionary approach transforms elemental understanding from static knowledge to dynamic relationship, continuously revealing new aspects of apparently familiar terrain through open inquiry beyond habitual perception. This personalized understanding transforms elemental philosophy from external framework temporarily adopted to internal wisdom continuously emerging through lived experience. Not rejecting traditional formulations but allowing them to evolve through authentic engagement with life's continuous unfolding. Beyond fixed concepts or borrowed understanding. Sharing elemental wisdom with others. As elemental integration develops beyond personal practice into embodied wisdom, natural desire often emerges to share this understanding with others, not through aggressive promotion but through authentic expression and appropriate invitation when circumstances allow. Introducing elemental concepts in accessible ways involves translating potentially abstract framework into relatable language appropriate to specific audience, rather than presenting complete theoretical system requiring significant philosophical context. Skillful sharing often begins with practical illustrations directly relevant to immediate circumstances. Perhaps noting how grounding techniques support emotional regulation during stress, how connecting with motivational purpose enhances sustainability during challenges, how gaining broader perspective facilitates creative problem solving during confusion, or how honoring emotional wisdom enhances decision-making beyond purely logical analysis. This accessible approach transforms elemental sharing from abstract teaching into practical resource offering immediate value through direct application to real-life situations. Teaching through example rather than prescription allows others to witness elemental wisdom in action without creating pressure for adoption. By embodying balanced presence during challenging circumstances, maintaining appropriate boundaries without rigidity, addressing emotions honestly without dramatic expression, offering clear perspective without imposing opinions. Mature practitioners demonstrate elemental integration through natural functioning rather than explicit instruction. This exemplary approach transforms elemental sharing from theoretical discourse potentially creating resistance into inspiring demonstration that naturally evokes others' interest through visible effectiveness beyond verbal persuasion. Supporting others' elemental journeys without imposing respects unique developmental paths beyond standardized progression. By recognizing that each person must discover their own relationship with elemental energies through direct experience rather than merely adopting external framework. Mature practitioners offer support without expectation, sharing resources when requested, validating authentic exploration, providing perspective when invited, while maintaining fundamental respect for others' sovereignty in determining their own developmental course. This supportive approach transforms elemental sharing from directive teaching into collaborative exploration, honoring diverse paths toward similar integration beyond any single prescribed methodology. Creating community around elemental development provides essential context for sustained growth beyond individual practice alone. Whether through formal groups dedicated to elemental exploration, informal relationships with fellow practitioners, professional communities integrating elemental understanding within specific domains, or family cultures supporting balanced development, communal context offers multiple benefits beyond solitary practice, accountability supporting consistent engagement, diverse perspectives expanding limited viewpoints, mutual encouragement during challenging phases, and living examples demonstrating various expressions of integration. This community approach transforms elemental development from isolated achievement into shared journey enriched through collective wisdom beyond individual limitations. The ethics of elemental teaching and guidance becomes increasingly important as sharing extends beyond personal circle. By maintaining appropriate humility about the limitations of their understanding, respecting others' autonomy in determining personal application, acknowledging diverse cultural and philosophical frameworks relating to elemental wisdom, and maintaining integrity between teaching and personal practice, mature practitioners create ethical foundation for meaningful sharing. This ethical approach transforms elemental teaching from potential misuse of influence into responsible offering appropriately limited by recognition of both the value and boundaries of personal wisdom shared with others. This sharing understanding transforms elemental wisdom from private possession into living tradition continuously enriched through diverse expressions beyond any single formulation. Not diluting authentic understanding through popularization but allowing its essential insights to evolve through varied applications across different contexts, personalities, and needs beyond any single expression regardless of its individual depth or validity. The ripple effect of personal elemental balance. While elemental integration begins as personal development journey, its effects inevitably extend far beyond individual experience through interconnected nature of all relationships and systems. How individual balance contributes to relationship harmony manifests through numerous pathways transcending merely personal benefits. Elementally balanced individuals typically demonstrate greater capacity for genuine presence without defensive reactivity, clearer communication without emotional distortion, appropriate boundaries without rigid separation, and authentic connection without dependent attachment, qualities creating foundation for healthier relationships beyond habitual patterns. Additionally, balanced presence often elicits similar qualities in others through resonance effect where regulated nervous systems help co-regulate other states without deliberate intervention. This relational impact transforms elemental development from self-improvement project into contribution creating ripple effect through every connection, family members, friends, colleagues, and even brief encounters potentially receiving benefit from balanced presence. Beyond deliberate teaching or explicit sharing. The impact of elemental awareness on communities extends personal integration into collective contexts through both individual contributions and systemic influence. Elementally balanced individuals often naturally emerge as grounding influences during community challenges, offer perspectival wisdom during collective confusion, provide motivational inspiration during group stagnation, or facilitate emotional processing during communal transitions. Function serving community needs beyond personal benefit. Additionally, elemental understanding applied to organizational structures, decision-making processes, communication systems, or conflict resolution approaches can transform collective functioning beyond individual participants. This community impact transforms elemental development from isolated achievement into meaningful contribution addressing broader needs beyond personal concerns. Environmental stewardship through elemental connection naturally emerges from balanced relationship with elements manifesting both as natural resources and psychological dimensions. By recognizing Earth not merely as metaphorical quality but as literal living system deserving responsible relationship, fire not only as internal motivation but as transformative energy requiring respectful engagement. Air not merely as mental clarity but as actual atmosphere needing protection, and water not just as emotional realm but as precious resource demanding conservation, elemental practitioners develop environmental ethic beyond abstract principle. This stewardship transforms elemental understanding from psychological framework into ethical relationship with larger systems sustaining all life beyond human concerns alone. *** Cultural healing through balanced elemental values *** addresses broader societal imbalances through ripple effect of individual transformation. Cultures demonstrating extreme elemental distortions, perhaps overemphasizing achievement-oriented fire without sufficient earth sustainability, intellectual air analysis without embodied wisdom, material earth security without meaningful purpose, or emotional water experience without clear discernment, create collective contexts reinforcing individual imbalance through dominant values, economic incentives, educational priorities, or status markers. By embodying balanced alternatives to these cultural patterns, elemental practitioners contribute to broader transformation beyond personal development. This cultural impact transforms elemental understanding from private practice into participation in evolutionary movement addressing collective challenges through individual embodiment of more balanced relationship with fundamental energies constructing both personal and cultural experience. The vision of a more elementally integrated society emerges not as utopian fantasy but as practical possibility through cumulative effect of individual development. Imagining communities where embodied wisdom receives equal respect with intellectual brilliance, where sustainable relationship with resources balances technological advancement, where emotional intelligence complements analytical skill, where cooperation enhances rather than limits individual expression. These possibilities represent not merely idealistic vision but natural extension of values emerging through personal elemental integration. This visionary understanding transforms elemental development from merely personal growth into participation in social evolution through embodiment of balanced relationship potentially addressing numerous challenges emerging from collective imbalance perpetuated through fragmented value systems. This ripple understanding transforms elemental integration from private achievement into meaningful contribution extending far beyond individual experience, not through grandiose ambition to change others or fix broken systems, but through natural extension of balanced presence influencing connected networks. Through authentic embodiment rather than deliberate intervention. Like stone dropped in still pond, integrated consciousness creates concentric circles extending outward through natural resonance beyond deliberate intention or conscious effort to produce specific outcomes beyond genuine presence. Journal reflection questions. 1. How has your relationship with the elements evolved through this book? What key shifts have occurred in how you understand or experience earth, fire, air, and water within yourself and your life? 2. What 3 key insights will you carry forward from this exploration? How specifically will you implement these understandings in your daily life beyond merely intellectual appreciation? 3. How might you continue to deepen your elemental practice? What resources, communities, or supports would help you develop beyond current understanding into more embodied integration? 4. What would an elementally balanced life look like for you 1 year from now? 5 years? Create specific vision incorporating all elements rather than emphasizing only currently comfortable dimensions. 5. How might your elemental development positively impact others in your life and community? What specific contributions could emerge from your balanced presence beyond deliberate teaching or intentional influence? The invitation of integration. As we reach the conclusion of this book, remember that we simultaneously arrive at threshold of beginning, the starting point of lived integration beyond conceptual understanding. The words on these pages represent not completed journey but invitation to continuous exploration that unfolds throughout lifetime of practice, reflection, and embodiment beyond any single framework's capacity to fully articulate. The elements themselves teach us this wisdom through their continuous transformation, their endless dance of becoming rather than static being. Earth becomes fire through decomposition feeding new growth, fire becomes air through flame releasing smoke, air becomes water through condensation forming clouds, water becomes earth through nourishment absorbed by plants. Nothing ever concludes in elemental world but rather transforms into new expression within continuous cycle of becoming. Similarly, your relationship with elemental wisdom represents not achievement to complete but relationship to develop, continuous unfolding that reveals new dimensions with each cycle of practice, each life challenge. Each moment of presence bringing fresh opportunity for integration beyond previous understanding. In this spirit, I invite you to close this book not with sense of completion but with renewed commitment to beginning, to bringing elemental awareness into each ordinary moment rather than seeking extraordinary experiences. To discovering balance within daily challenges rather than waiting for perfect conditions. To embodying integration through authentic presence rather than performing idealized version of wholeness. The true measure of this work lies not in conceptual understanding but in lived expression, the quality of presence you bring to each encounter, each decision, each relationship as elements within you achieve increasingly harmonious expression through your unique being. May the earth support you with stability while never restricting your growth, may fire energize you with purpose while never consuming your resources. May air expand your perspective while never disconnecting you from embodied wisdom, and may water deepen your experience while never overwhelming your capacity. May the quintessential consciousness emerging from their balanced integration illuminate your path through both challenge and joy, darkness and light, ordinary and extraordinary moments that together compose the magnificent journey of elemental living.